Hey, welcome back. So now that you've learned about writing simple React components, let's try to understand a bit more about DOM and virtual DOM or React DOM, in other words. So this is slightly a theoretical lesson, but then try to bear with me because understanding this is going to help you a lot in terms of writing more efficient code. Now, DOM stands for your document object model, and it's basically what represents your HTML document over here. Now, this is a tree of elements. You have a parent, a child, a child, a child. This specific div has two childs inside them, so it's a tree with two children, and then this has all of these different children. Now, this is a tree representation. Now, when you do document dot, you find an element and you do a set inner HTML, what actually happens is JavaScript directly goes in here and directly inserts something over here. Now, this is known as DOM manipulation. Now, this is a very slow process, especially in a very large HTML document. Now, you might think when you do react.render, isn't that exactly what you're doing? You are actually modifying the DOM and inputting stuff in there. So how does React do it, right? So React seems to be quite fast, and if you did if you directly used set inner HTML, it wouldn't really have been this fast. So how does React do it? Now, React does it by using the virtual DOM or the React DOM. Now, this is a concept where the ideal or the virtual representation of the UI is kept in the memory. Now, this is kept as a tree. Now, you can see that this is the HTML tree that we have. These are all the nodes that we have. And React keeps a copy of this inside React's memory. And what React does is whenever you are making a change, whenever you are doing a React DOM.render, you are actually changing the virtual DOM or the React DOM or the one that is kept in the memory and not the one that is being rendered and the one that you see. And React underneath takes care of synchronizing this virtual DOM representation with the real DOM. So this allows us not to worry about how the UI is being rendered. Rather, React can do that for us. React takes care of the reconciliation process between the virtual DOM that we are editing and the real DOM. Now, quoting the official documentation of React, the virtual DOM is more of a pattern than a technology. So when you're using React, it's always the virtual DOM that you as a developer is working with. And it's React's job to keep the virtual DOM in sync with the React DOM. Now it's because of the virtual DOM and the reconciliation process of React, uh, that React has a lot of key features like effects and state, which are all asynchronous. So whenever you do something, it doesn't instantly happen. Instead, all of this happens in asynchronous manner. So um, if you write a line, it does not necessarily happen at that point of time. It's going to be queued in and it's going to happen after a couple of milliseconds or so. So how does React synchronize the virtual DOM with the actual DOM? Now this process is known as the reconciliation process. So for instance, if I change here like let's imagine that this is happening in real time, and if I change that, what happens here? So what happens here is React change when you make a change, React changes it in the React DOM or the virtual DOM, and then React checks what parts of the UI needs to be actually changed. And whenever React finds a change in in a specific element, it's gonna unmount all of its children and it's gonna render all of that together. So for instance, if you see the tree that we have over here, it's gonna look at this div, and it's gonna say that okay, this div hasn't really changed, this one hasn't really changed, this one hasn't really changed. We have this div which has the heading and all of this. This hasn't really changed. The first label didn't change, the first input didn't change, the first label didn't change. This input, uh, I'm sorry, this label is what changed, and this is the only component that is going to be changed. So React is going to take care of everything so that only this specific element is going to be re-rendered. Everything else is going to stay the same. Now, this reconciliation process is how React achieves such speed or such agility, I'd say, in making things very real time. Now, you can read more about React's reconciliation process at React official documentation at reactjs.org/reconciliation, and I'll add linked the documentation in the text content that you have. Now, it is also important to note that it is to optimize the reconciliation that we use the key attribute whenever we are rendering an array. So whenever you're rendering an array, this key attribute is used to decide on which items are being changed and which items did not change. And React uses this to optimize the re-rendering process or the reconciliation process. Cool. So that's practically the end of this level, and see you in the next level.